Hi, everyone. This is another episode of Tick Ed. We haven't been here in a while. We've been busy, but haven't done any recordings lately. So it's Lynn and Mary. And today we are going to talk about an event where we attended last night at the Richardson Republican Women's Meeting. And they hosted Steve Munisteri, who is the senior advisor for Governor Greg Abbott and his communications advisor. Mary, you want to say anything before I
Well, I think
pull
it's
this up?
important to know that he has a very long history in the Republican Party and his role in the Republican Party. His tenure is extensive. Um, and now he is in the governor's office. So I think you have to look at where we are today and how long he's been involved and how long he's had a role in it. And people need to understand that we have to start holding the people who have been the face and the leadership of Republican conservatives in Texas and change who that is. We
Mhm.
have to get Republicans that have not contributed to the problem. And that's, I mean, I'm looking at what was put out that he was going to discuss at this meeting, and I was shocked at what he discussed. He was asked, do you have a PowerPoint presentation? No, I just have it all in my head.
Mhm.
And, there's nothing wrong with that. I love people who speak just, you
Well,
know,
that's where we work.
that's
We
right. So
we
I
do both.
love that and I appreciate that. But
We
when
do both.
advertised and you expect a representative from the governor's office is coming to talk to us and there's a brick wall there, I have a real problem with the lack of transparency. So what did you see last night?
Well, okay, so you can see my screen here with his bio, right?
Yes, I
Well,
can. Uh-huh.
so what was interesting is that it says he's going to bring us the latest from the governor's office. Well, it was really a lot of talk about the
Federal.
party, about the presidential election. And while that's an important race that everyone's watching, I think it's very important for us to be looking at what's happening local. But
Yes.
also I think that he should have addressed more of what the governor is doing. And so I think that was he left a lot of things out. He really deflected from the governor's office and the
Yes.
governor's agenda.
No.
And
And
so
Lynn,
now he's all like, let's get back together. And after they've attacked so many candidates in the Republican Party to unseat them, now that he's like, oh, let's not focus on, any of that. Let's just, get together and back Trump and Cruz. And he mentioned that Cruz is in big trouble and is supposed to or could lose or win by 1%. They show him winning by 1%, but barely. But more importantly, I want to go into some of the details of the things that he said when we asked our questions. I'm going
yes.
to take this off here and then.
So before you go into what he said when we one to one, so I was taking notes when he was speaking. You were absolutely correct. I was shocked that he was not talking about state issues and he was not there telling us what the governor can do. Well, what the governor has been doing. Well, that's because there's no winning for us, the conservatives, in what the governor has been doing. So there's really, I mean, whose fault is it that he's not there speaking on what he's done? He really can't speak about what the governor has done. The governor hasn't done. And but he really spent a lot of time and said over and over and over again to that group that they could not trust the media, that the media lies, the media lies, the media lies.
Yeah,
Well, he's part of communications from the governor's office, and a majority of the lying is coming out of their office. And
I
it's
agree. And
it's
he
hypocritical.
uses the media. He uses the
Yes.
media in a way that distorts the truth. He does PR stunts and makes the low information voter think that he's tackling the issues at the border, and that's not the reality. And so what I'll play here. I'm gonna blow this up and play the. Oh, I already did that. I'm gonna play the question. I think it was at 34 minutes. Uh, okay. We, as the voters, we put our top priorities, a list. We've got our 1 through 8. Can you hear that, Mary?
I can.
Okay.
School choice is 9. So if that's the case, why did he do 4 special sessions on an issue that wasn't the border, election integrity, all those important things?
So I'll answer that question the way I answered my state chairman about the party platform. If some people say that stuff doesn't matter, and others say it's the only thing that matters. What I said is, it's very important as an indication of what the 5,000 activists believe. But there's a broader constituency.
What did he call us at the Republican Party? The precinct chairs, the delegates, and those who are most deeply engaged at the local level. What did he call us?
Activist.
Activists. That was dismissive. That was implying that those of us who go to convention are radicals and we don't represent the majority of Republicans in Texas. What is that all about?
Well, and the other thing that I have a problem with is that if you're going to sample, if you're going to do these polls, which the governor repeatedly and Steve repeatedly rely on polls and data and surveys. And there were not 5,000 people, by the way, at the Republican convention this summer, which is shameful that there were not. So his number is not even correct. But if you're going to use that, if you're going to use one sampling of the party for an opinion and then discount another sampling, to me, it sounds like they have disconnected themselves from the party.
They cherry pick and he does what he wants. So listen to this.
Which are the 5 million Republicans that vote. Those are also the governor's constituencies. The 5 million Republicans, the 9 million. If you poll, for example, you'll find that educational savings accounts are way, way up there.
Wait, but so 2 years ago, it was up in the 90s, the percentage of Republicans who said they support school choice. It's dropped to the 70s just in 2 years, and it dropped from the top 8 to number 9 at the convention. So the support for school choice is actually waning. It's declining. But more importantly, the way that they word the propositions is deceptive semantics. So people are saying yes to something that we already have. We already have parental rights and parental choice. So they conflate that with money. What they really mean is money. What we don't have is money where the dollars can follow the child into their private or homeschool. But they're using terms that say things like parents should have the right to choose. Well, we do have that right. And so they don't give the devil in the detail, or they don't really go into the details. And they leave out the fact that these bills, these school choice bills, and all of them that have led up to this point have grown government, the comptroller's office and the TEA, with $34 billion or $500 million. So they leave that part out. So I'm going to keep
going. And then the next thing that, he talks about and he justifies discounting any of the priorities from the convention was he said everybody wants tax relief and that's not on there. And I pointed out to him, well, they're incongruent. You can't grow the government via an education savings account and expanding government education, because the education savings account is an expansion of government education. It is not a contraction.
And I'll play your question too. Hang on.
Okay.
Support. So, for example,
was that on a ballot?
Well, I'm happy to do it one at a time. I'll also point out those priorities didn't have property tax reduction on them. Does anybody here think property tax is not a reduction?
So he's criticizing us from the convention, but again, that can't be done there, really and truly. The only way to achieve property tax relief is to stop spending, both at the state and the local levels.
Well, and property tax is on in the platform. It is in the Republican platform. It's just not in the top eight, which is what is considered the priority. Which is why you identified that it had dropped down to 9. It's no longer a priority. And yet the governor has continued in his spending and in his messaging
Bully
and
pulpit.
in his
Right.
threats, and bully is the right word, in his threats to the House members mostly, that they will deliver school choice or educational savings accounts. Now, then, we previously brought to people via TICAD a video of this man, Steve Munisteri, saying, look, we just need a little bit. We just need the plate. And then we'll come back and we'll get the whole enchilada. And we know that that is the mindset of the Texas legislator and those who are funding and pushing this, is that we just need a small piece of it. And then we'll come back and we'll get more and more and more until we have completely obliterated our neighborhood schools and our local control and local government. And that is what is happening everywhere. But I think it's very hypocritical. I cannot think of another word for this man, and it's nothing is lost here that he is being hypocritical about the Republican Party, because the governor himself is hypocritical about the party. It is tyrannical. The way that he asserts his agenda.
Right.
So I just, with disrespect for the party, and I think that disrespect has bled all the way down through the party at the local level, which is why you see in all these counties so much division at the county level, and why there is such a huge divide in the Republican Party. Now then, we focus on education, but truly, what a disaster it will be if the Republicans lose control at any level. Any loss of Republican control exposes more and more, indoctrination of the education system. So we really, the Republicans have got to come to the table on these issues and own truth, not the lie and not the profits that come from privatization of education. So I was sickened by the hypocrisy.
All right, let me finish his.
This should not be a priority.
Yeah.
Should it be a priority?
Should be a priority.
That was not on the Republican Party priority list. So if we're going to say we're not going to support issues that aren't on the list, then that means our party doesn't support a property tax reduction. Well, your governor believes in a property tax reduction, and he ran on it. He also believes in parental choice.
He also ran on eliminating the no bid
contracts.
And what we've seen from the TEA is multiple crony deals and no bid contracts that have been funneled through that state agency to the tune of millions of dollars. So that's hypocritical as well.
Let me tell you one thing, parental choice. The last poll by the Democrats, I think it was U of H Hobby, polled that roughly 3/4 of Republicans support parental choice. The substantial majority of independents, and around 50% of Democrats. So overall, it's one of the most popular issues in the state. So the governor ran on it. You don't have to agree with it, but the governor ran on it. And just as I said that, you have Senator Hall or President Trump, that they deliver on what they run on. We will have parental choice next session of the legislature.
So I also have a problem.
I listened to you tonight, and there were two things that stood out very strongly that you said. And one was that the media lied, and that we couldn't believe the media. And I would agree with you on that. And the other thing that you talked about was not state, but a lot of federal. And when you were talking about the federal, you were talking about the cost of living and inflation. And there are two things that are incontrovertible. They cannot exist together. You cannot grow government and give us a tax reduction. Mm-hmm. And you can't ask the people on a proposition if they're for parental rights, which are not given to you by the governor. So the lie was on the ballot, not by the media.
So let me address that, and I don't mean to be rude here, but that actually is not accurate. You can keep the size of government to the growth of inflation and population and still give a tax cut, because we just did.
I mean, do you hear him? Like,
We're gonna keep the gates open. We're gonna keep, you know, the other thing is when and again, taxation is not our lane. It is not our mission. But because taxes are not being allocated properly and they're spending so much money through education and none of it ever gets to the actual student, I would say, you know, I have a problem with all of the tax breaks that this administration has given unilaterally to bring businesses to the state of Texas. Come here, tax free, come here, tax free, come here, tax free. And it leaves the burden of this government where they want an open-ended check on the individual taxpayer, on middle America and the homeowner. So I think that the conservatives need to start holding accountable for transparency with where these taxes are going.
You want me to play any more of this, or was that pretty much it?
No, I mean, I think that's it. Then we could skip to the end, but I mean,
I can put the Facebook link in the body of this. You know, once I post this on YouTube, I can click and listen to the whole thing. But yeah, he's a salesman and pretty darn good at it. But I think so. Later in the night, we went and spoke. You and I, or you started talking to him first. And it was a little contentious. I mean, he was trying to move us along and get to the people who were waiting in line behind us. But we were interrupted by one of the women who was there. So then we had to finish the conversation with him. But so you challenged him, and he admitted that they do a poll through the governor's office, or they've done polls. They are hidden from the public. He explicitly said that they are not released. And the language so basically he was saying, well, you wouldn't be able to know what the language was to even know that it was deceptive semantics, because we don't release that to the public. So that gave us an idea as far as an action item. And those of you listening to this talk, is that we can come from different angles and file for public information requests for these polls that are done by the governor to see what the public wants. And these are school choice related polls that he's taking. But again, the language sets it up as though, well, do you want, would you like free money to fall from the sky? Of course, people are going to say yes. The reality is we have to pay for this. And if school choice makes it through the next legislative session, and if Governor Abbott signs a bill, which we know he will not sign any bills without strings, right, those bills will grow government. They will increase. It adds a new taxpayer-funded lane to education while we are already paying for public schools and charter schools. Now they're going to add vouchers, and then a potential fourth lane, which would be virtual ed. We do pay for this. It is not, the myth is, or the misconception is that the money will siphon all the money away from the public schools into the people's hands for them to spend it how they want. That's not exactly how it works. It will drain the public schools when and if students leave. But we're talking about paying for students who are already in private schools, not in the government and the public schools. So we will be paying for that lane of education as well if these bills.
Well, and when really the greatest risk to all of this is not only are we going to lose access to local control in public schools, and not only are you going to lose parents' rights, but we have seen in other states, once they get the first bill and then the second bill, by the time they get to the third level, they are going in and taking control of these parents who are raising their children and taking them out of the public school system and homeschooling them. They are going to go after that. And
you're saying that it'll change the landscape of the homeschool.
Yes.
Because if they take the money, then they're no longer private or homeschools.
Right. And again, what we see in education and what we see in Texas, no leading, all following. And they're picking other states to emulate. And the states that they pick to emulate are further down the road, whether it's in having the Bible. Oklahoma's already using biblical references for to be implemented throughout instructional materials. And Texas is trying to do that. Well, I mean, that's a violation of a parent's right when it's embedded all throughout the instructional material. When
we're not going to get into the whole Bible stuff, but we know that they're using the Bible. They're inserting excerpts from the Bible and Bible stories to tickle the ears of Republicans, so they will be more inclined to support the House Bill 1605
Right.
in the statewide curriculum. We know that that's deception, but we're not going to get into that.
Again, they're copying. They're following in that. They're following, and the states that they're looking to emulate relative to the voucher are already pressing the brakes on the voucher and saying it's not affordable, it's not working. That's Arizona. I mean, over and over and over again. And then you have states like Wisconsin where the homeschoolers are saying, it took less than a year before they started taking over and mandating that the homeschools comply with their instructional material and their laws. So I don't see a pathway for Texas that takes on a small portion of this without it going full force and rupturing our personal freedoms and our personal rights. This will ultimately destroy the little bit of parental rights that we do have. It's not giving us more rights. So I'm very, very concerned about what it's going to do to every aspect of choice. And I think we can look around and see, and then I think the foundation and the basis of what the state is leading on lacks truth or transparency when, the governor's office is admitting that they're hiding these things. And when I talk to House members that are out knocking on doors, they are saying that nobody's saying their priority is a voucher. Now, they're knocking on thousands of doors, and they're saying the border is
not coming up. That school
just
not coming up as a priority from the voters. And that was the point I was making when I asked you the question, why is the governor making school choice the number one priority and the thing that drove 4 sessions when that's not what we, the voters, are asking for? And those of us on the ground in the grassroots effort, me as a precinct chair, that's not what people are asking for. They're concerned about the high cost of living. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about the border and the mass immigration. So they're concerned about the voter issues and our election integrity. So why is that not a priority of our governor, who has a massive war chest? When you and I were looking up how much money he has in his account that he spends going after Republicans to push those who will vote for his agenda in the legislature, which legally he can do because we've allowed money to drive politics. I mean, what do you say about that?
Well, Lynn, that's one of my Achilles heels. I'm so repulsed by the fact that our Constitution, which was founded on morality, not power, it was founded on a moral place where mankind was put first. It was founded on biblical principles. And what we have now is the opposite of any of that, because the motivator for everything that's happening in our government is power and money. And I don't think that the outcome when you pursue power and money is ever going to be beneficial for the people. So I'm very, very opposed to that. And we do.
Sorry, I'm trying to do the video of the governor.
That's okay. So I just think that, and I don't know what the solution is to that. But on that note, I did read an article in regards to the Republican Party that, the Texas GOP's finances are only looking, and he mentioned that last night. The Texas GOP fundraising is really suffering, has been. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that if the people don't start
showing
that they're engaged and seeking accountability, then this governor is not going to hold anybody accountable. And he's not. He's not holding his very own appointee in Mike Morath accountable, because we, the people, are not holding this governor accountable. And we've got to start. One way to do that is to start pushing for greater transparency out of that office by doing public information requests for everything that's going on in the governor's office. They'll get sick of it.
Well, I just thought of this, this video, you've seen it before, but I think it's a good one to share, just to remind people what he said.
Yes.
And this is a great one. The press asked him a question regarding school choice.
The curriculum and making sure that the parents' choices are taken into account, especially in public schools.
Listen, very importantly, whenever money is being spent by the state on education, there must be accountability. And so there are accountability measures that are in place for public schools, and accountability measures must continue to be in place to ensure that progress is being made. Let me just give you an over easy example. If someone is involved in homeschooling their child, but they actually don't provide any education to their child and they just watch TV all day, that would be not complying with accountability measures by the state.
Well, that's another element of hypocrisy. The kids watch TV at home all day. No, instead we want them inside the school building, glued to the data sucker of the Chromebook, where they're watching a smaller screen all day long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I what hypocrisy. I don't think they understand how hypocritical they are.
Well, and just that he's not being honest about. I mean, we need to just cut to the chase. He's not going to sign a bill that doesn't have strings, and that's accountability strings through testing and reporting on how the money's spent. It will change the landscape of homeschools and private schools. Once they take the money, they're no longer private, and that's the reality. And you and I saw that at the convention with the shenanigans they tried to pull to get strings back in the language, and we stopped them. And so they're going to pull out all the stops, and they're actually fracturing the party over this issue more than any other issue, is what we've seen. So
well, it's their fundraiser. It's what they and I think when I say that, once abortion was made illegal in the state of Texas, they lost their fundraiser. They lost the topic that drove the fundraising. You look at the funds that the party has been able to raise in Texas, they're not raising money off of their number one issue, school choice. So I think that's a very telltale sign there, Lynn. They've created it as the number one controversy. They're using it as their new choice, and so I think that the writing is on the wall, and if they refuse to listen to it, Texas is going to suffer.
There was a legislator, I was talking to a staffer from a legislator, and I said, what are you hearing on this school choice issue? He said, it never comes up.
Yeah.
People do not call their office and say, I want school choice.
Yeah.
That's not it. And so, okay, well, call to action. Last night when you mentioned that you were talking about the State Board of Education, and Steve Munisteri said that the State Board will contact the State Board and remind me.
Well, I said to him, I'm having trouble because, again, the hypocrisy. You're out here with this platform where you're saying parents' rights, but yet the state and the Texas Ledge are pushing through instructional material and curriculum with this House Bill 1605 that literally interferes with any parent empowerment or any parent's rights. It's truly a violation of the law. The law says that parents have the right to bring up their own children in regards to values and morality and religion. And now the state has already done morality with the character bills, and now they're putting in where they teach English language arts and civics and social studies, they're putting religion in there. So that's, again, a violation. And I said, you're stepping on parents' rights there. So how can you justify, y'all are at odds with each other. How can you say, and no, you go to SBOE. I know you go to those meetings and you talk to them, and we don't have anything to do with that. Well, again, hello, how many times have I been sitting in those meetings and somebody at the dais says, and they say it to us privately, says, well, the governor's office wants, and that was literally how we got the bad sex ed instructional material approved, was
Right, 'cause
because the
next
governor's
page.
office, yeah, that's right, the
Mine's
governor's
Mary-
office.
Mary-
And then we had this last January, or was it? Wow, it'll be 2 years this January. The 2 years this January, we had Texas Values come over to the State Board of Education and tell them that the lieutenant governor's office wanted it and the governor's office wanted it, and they needed to revote on their priorities because their priorities is not. So the governor's office is definitely putting his hand on what SBOE does and trying to control. When Mike Morath can't control it, the governor will step in and put his weight on it. And then,
Both.
so that's hypocritical. Why would he tell me to go talk to them when they're the ones trying to, with the biggest megaphone and the biggest voice and the most money being spent to unseat people that don't do the will of the governor? I mean,
Right.
hypocritical.
We heard them say that. Mary Elizabeth Castle with Texas Values said, well, this is what, at the pleasure of the governor. The governor wants this, so we should be doing this. That's not how it works. And the governor, I might remind people that he appointed the commissioner 8 years ago. Education is actually on him. If we keep declining, we keep increasing spending, increasing hires, and bloating the administration at TEA, and education is on the decline, then he plays a role in that because education is under him and there's no one over Mike Morath. He has carte blanche, and the governor has allowed this under his reign. So when people understand that, then we can start putting pressure from the bottom up on our electeds like Abbott. So, okay. Anything else before we close, Mary?
No, just, want to be in there and support parents, help parents advocate for their children and themselves in the school systems, and continuing to see schools doing good things. It is not as bleak as a lot of the media would like to portray. Yes, we have problems, but we do have schools that are being successful and that are rooting out some of the undesirable things that were being put into our school systems.
Yes, and we do have the tools in place, like when a parent complained about what was happening to their child at the TEA sent a high-ranking official to gather her story so that he could use it for Abbott's speechwriter school choice. So yes, if the state was doing what it was supposed to do, and if the locals were doing what they were supposed to do, there is a chain of command, there is a protocol, a process, and those things are not happening because we don't have accountability and we're losing our ability to govern locally because of the encroachment of the state. So, okay, thanks so much. You can find us at familiesengaged.org, and we also have a Facebook page, Families Engaged for Effective Education, and you can find the video of Steve Munisteri from last night on that Facebook page, and I'll share it in the link here. Thanks so much.
We'll get it added to the website too.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.